In a day and age where actors seem to be using the roles that they're hired to play as a platform in order to push their own political agenda, it's refreshing to see that there's still some old school professionals within the industry who care more about the role that they're hired to play as opposed to just using it as a soapbox. John Lithgow says he absolutely didn't expect any JK Rowling backlash after joining HBO's Harry Potter series. Why is this a factor? And this is coming from Variety. John Lithgow is opening up about how fans feel about him joining HBO's Harry Potter series, considering the involvement of the contentious franchise creator JK Rowling. Now you can compare this to someone else like Pedro Pascal, for instance, in recent days was very critical over JK Rowling, even went so far as to call her a heinous loser, despite the fact that she's way more successful than he'll ever hope to become. And yes, he's not in this, but you can just see the stark contrast between someone like John Lithgow, who is basically saying like, no, JK Rowling being involved with this isn't a factor at all. I was just hired on for this role, so I'm going to do the role as best as I can, versus someone like Pedro Pascal, who looks at more like the political leanings over people involved with it and makes decisions according to that, which is, I would say, something that actors shouldn't be doing when they're taking on roles. In a sit down with the Times of London, Lithgow said he has received some backlash for joining HBO's Harry Potter because of Rowling's controversial comments about the transgender community. And I don't even think her comments are controversial. They were just common sense up until 15 minutes ago when people thought that men could magically become women and vice versa. The Conclave star said it was something he absolutely did not expect and was thinking more about his age when he accepted the role. Of course, it was a big decision because it's probably the last major role I'll play, Lithgow said. It's an 8-year commitment, so I was just thinking about mortality and that and that this is a very good winding down role. I'm going to put a pause on that there. That seems to be a kind of a sensible approach to this sort of thing because the guy, I believe he's 79 years old. So saying, are you going to sign on for 8-year deal with for this role? I mean, I can see why he'd be like, yeah, this seems like a good one to cap off my career. But at the same time, yeah, he's going to be in the late 80s when this is all wrapping up with, especially when you look at the last person that they hired to play Dumbledore in the series, Richard Harris. He tragically died during the production of those movies. So maybe John Lithgow's thinking like, am I going to be doing the same thing where I start the series and then someone else finishes it? I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily like, it's not like there's going to be something that's definitely going to happen, but I'm sure he's considering that, like he's older. So whether or not he'll actually make it to the end, he evidently thinks he can do it. And I actually applaud him for thinking that's his major concern, whether or not he can actually do the job, as opposed to concerning himself with the politics of the creator of the series. Because like he said at the start of in the headline, that really shouldn't matter. Lithgow added that a very good friend who is the mother of a trans child, so a mother who indoctrinated her own child, sent him an open letter entitled "An Open Letter to John Lithgow, Please Walk Away from Harry Potter," after he picked up the role. That was the canary in the coal mine, he said. Lithgow went on to ponder why Rowling's past comments should affect the project. I thought, why is this a factor at all? I wonder how JK Rowling has absorbed it, Lithgow said. I suppose at a certain point I'll meet her and I'm curious to talk to her. When asked if the backlash has made him reconsider the role, Lithgow said, "Oh heavens, no." And that's the right approach to these sort of things. Many of these losers out there who are going to be attacking people for taking on roles in this show, just let it be known that their opinions ultimately don't matter, because I think the people who are going to be boycotting this over this sort of decision are few and far between. We've seen that in recent years, where the people who are who are trying to push these radical left-wing agendas really don't have much power when it comes to actual viewership numbers. Even shows like The Acolyte, for instance, that are like clearly catered towards that demographic. You can see the viewership from it, and it's really not that much. So I think people are starting to realize like that's not the audience that you try to cater to. So it's better just to ignore them entirely. Back in 2020, Rowling posted a series of social media posts claiming that the existence of transgender people erased the lived reality of women. That's 100% true. Shortly after, film stars Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint issued statements opposing her opinions, and that's because the three of them are moral cowards who will just bow down to what the collective around them says, as opposed to standing on principles or standing up for someone who basically gave them the careers that they have right now. So it is good that John Lithgow has a little bit of a backbone, but that's probably because the guy's been in the industry for decades now. I mean, he's basically above all this stuff going out there right now, and it doesn't concern him. So it's good on him to see that he's not paying attention to this sort of thing. Now, the funny thing about all this is it's clear that the people who are upset with JK Rowling are not a demographic who are actually going to show up and watch the show because JK Rowling's involvement with it. But one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting when it came to the casting decisions, I'm not going to really harp on this too much, but the race swapped casting of Severus Snape for the show, because this seems to be like almost like an olive branch to these same type of people, because the radical left-wing demographic who would oppose the show because of J.K. Rowling's involvement in her opinions on trans issues would probably be more inclined to applaud a decision like this, even though it's alienating the people who are fans of the book, which is what this show is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a faithful adaptation of the source material, and this is deviating from it pretty dramatically right there. So I don't know if it'll actually work, but I said in a video talking about it when it was first announced that I could see the decision working. I don't think it's starting off on the right foot though, but if he's just such a great actor for the role, I'm not super familiar with his work. Maybe he can actually pull through with it and it'll be fine. House of the Dragon is another example of a show that had a race swap casting and they made it work. So I'm not necessarily saying the show's going to be a failure right out of the gate because of this decision, but it is kind of curious from a production company that is just trying to do what's right by the source material. But all that aside, though, I am glad that John Lithgow is cast as Albus Dumbledore, because when I first announced that he was going to be playing the role, or he was up for the role, I thought it was an interesting choice. But at the same time, he is a fantastic actor and I can actually see him pulling it off. And I would kind of like to see how he would take on the character and how it compares to past actors who played the role. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you think more actors should take his approach where they ignore the politics and just focus on the role? Or do you think that it is a platform in order to push their own personal agenda, whether you agree with it or disagree with it? And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.